best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000. Or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
And we're off on a Monday. This hour of the show brought to you by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Family owned and operated. The best service technicians, friendly service advisors that put your needs first, and half-price oil changes on Saturdays. All that and so much more out at Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Appreciate their sponsorship of Locked In today and every day. You know what's quite insufferable, Grayson Singleton?
Outside of Dallas traffic?
Outside of Dallas traffic, which is insufferable. A phenomenon that I like to refer to as corporate anglerfish. Are you familiar with the anglerfish?
I know what the anglerfish is.
You've
yes.
watched Finding Nemo, right?
Plenty of times.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
I had a childhood.
That was the first movie I ever watched in theaters. I was probably 4 years old. First movie I ever watched in theaters was Finding Nemo. And, you know, there's the scene where the anglerfish, Marlin and Dory confront the anglerfish.
Right,
And Dory,
yeah.
of course, like, I see a light.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to touch
Touch it.
And then, of course, it's an anglerfish that tries to eat them. But that is very similar to the experience of dealing with so many of these corporations that just want your information. They don't actually want to give you anything. They just want your information. Last night, Grayson...
I'm so scared.
I was driving through Dallas, as you know, because I tweeted about it. But I was driving through Dallas and had to make the decision as to where I was going to stop for dinner. One place that I had been several times, but probably hadn't been there for 5, maybe 6 years, is Mooyah. Are you familiar with Mooyah?
The burger place?
Yeah.
It's a good place.
Really good burger
Yeah,
place.
I like that place.
They offered me, I went and I looked at their menu online when I stopped for gas. I was like, does any of this stuff speak to me? Could I see myself eating this for dinner? And I was on the fence until little pop-up ad showed up touting a free milkshake if I signed up for text alerts. And so, of course, I'm like, shoot, a free milkshake? All I got to do is get a random text, tap it, and never read it again. Yeah, I'll do that. So I sign up for the text alerts. They give me a promo code for the free milkshake, and so I drive to Mooyah. And I spend $16 on dinner. I have a burger. I have some sweet potato fries. Have some tea. It's a good, solid meal. But at the end, I'm looking forward to topping it all off with a milkshake, right?
Oh, no.
I go up to the counter, show them my little promo code thing, and they said, oh, that's online order only.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, so what you're telling me is I have to go place an online order? Yeah, you got to place an order online. Can I not just show it to you? Like, isn't it the same thing? Isn't it more efficient if I just show this to you and you can see that I have? They're like, no, you have to order online. That's how it is. And I'm like, okay, I'm already here, but whatever. I'll go order online. I go to order it online. The promo code doesn't work. I double and triple check that I have entered it correctly. I have entered it correctly. It should work. It does not. The promo code does not work. And, of course, there's nothing the employees there can do about it because they're just there to cook burgers and take orders. They don't deal with any of that tech stuff.
Right.
They don't know what to do. All they know is, yeah, that's supposed to be an online-only deal, and you got to enter the promo code, and we'll give you a free shake. But the code doesn't work. The code doesn't work, and so I'm already $16 in the hole for dinner, which, admittedly, I'd have spent probably that much for dinner anywhere. But would I have chosen Mooyah in a vacuum if not for the promise of a free milkshake that was never delivered to me? Probably not. And so they dangled this free milkshake in front of my face like an anglerfish. only to snap at me when I actually took them up on it and gave them my information in exchange for a fraudulent promo code.
And I'll bet you they haven't stopped sending you texts since.
I had to block the number. I got way too many texts in the span of a single night. I'm like, okay, no.
What restaurant did BJ's? When I signed up for something for BJ's, I got a free Pizookie from there. And they will not stop sending me emails.
It's like, sheesh, it's like my psycho ex is back in my life.
Right?
Texting me every 20 minutes. You're a restaurant. Please shut up. So that was my evening. It was very frustrating.
Was that more or less frustrating than seeing two SUVs traveling at triple digit speeds?
It was more frustrating. It was more frustrating because I felt hoodwinked. I was hoodwinked.
Do we need to
And of course, there was nothing an actual person could do about it, which is another very unfortunate phenomenon of this era, which is that everything is computerized and digitized, and even when, I'll say this, when I call my credit card company, they're very good about getting things sorted out with whatever I need sorted out. But I have to talk to a robot first. That's the first thing I have to do before I get to an actual person is I have to talk to a robot.
Didn't I go on this rant like a month ago?
Probably so. So that was my evening.
Cue the Stephen A. We've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray.
Yes.
That was
flat
you.
out led astray.
And flat out deceived.
Drew from Plymouth says, Mooyah's milkshakes brings Parker to a rage. Dang right. I wanted a milkshake. They had a matcha shake that I was really, really looking forward to trying. And lo and behold, came up empty. Came up empty because, well, I'm not exactly sure why. Either I was lied to, or they need to get their IT situation sorted out. Regardless, I was hoodwinked. As we get on the topic of actual sports here today, Grayson, the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line is 405-651-3439. If you want to chime in, 405-651-3439. And a 310 listener said, Parker, first world problems. Yes and amen. I understand. That's definitely a first world problem. Infuriating, but a first world problem nonetheless.
A 918 listener, Arby's text code would have worked.
Oh, my goodness. Don't even go there.
I was calling baseball real fast. I was calling baseball at Oklahoma City this weekend, and you would never guess what some of the people in the press box were eating.
Was it Arby's?
And I thought about immediately texting you.
Okay, so here's something interesting to get us started today, because I'm curious to hear what the text line thinks of this. No doubt there will be some varying opinions. Josh Pate, very well-respected national college football voice at CBS Sports. I think one of the straightest shooters that there is. No BS, just facts. He's going to call like he sees it. He's not always right, but nobody is. I think he does a really, really good job of keeping it no fluff, all facts. But Josh Pate, earlier today, or I guess it was last night, he released a list of 12 college football programs that he believes are the best in college football, using a 4-year rolling blend of talent acquisition, on-field results, and program resources / stability. Oklahoma is not one of those 12 programs, thereby indicating that, in Josh Pate's opinion, Oklahoma is not a top 12 program in college football. The programs that were given the distinction, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Penn State, LSU, Clemson, Ole Miss. No real surprises on that list. Maybe Ole Miss is
yeah,
the most likely that you could say, okay, OU belongs there instead of the Rebs. But I'm curious to see what the text line thinks of that evaluation. Is it true that as of right now, today, in 2025, Oklahoma does not have a top 10 college football program? Because I know for a fact there are going to be some listeners that are completely blinded by homerism, and that's fine. Y'all are crazy. We love you for it. It's why we have a job. There are going to be some people that are completely unwilling to acknowledge that Oklahoma is not a top 10 program in college football right this second. And then there are going to be some, the doomers, that say, not only are they not top 10, they're not even close to it. This program is in shambles. And then I think you're always going to have a middle ground. You're going to have that crowd that says, yeah, they're probably not top 10 right now, but they're close to it. Or, yeah, I see why they belong in the top 10, but I also understand why somebody would omit them. So what do we think? What do we think of the opinion that the programs I mentioned, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Bama, Oregon, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Penn State, LSU, Clemson, and Ole Miss, are all better college football programs, pound for pound, right now than Oklahoma? First opinion on the text line comes from Realtor Chris, who says, historically, obviously, that would be silly. But every one of those 12 teams would be favored against Oklahoma next year, which is probably true.
Real talk.
Clemson is probably the school Oklahoma would have the best chance against, in Vegas at least. But yeah, I tend to agree. Neutral field, every single one of those 12 schools is favored over OU.
I mean, just look at if we're going the last 4 years. These are Oklahoma's last 4 years. 6-7, 10-3, lost a bowl game. 6-7, and then 11-2 in 2021. But you lost to Oklahoma State and Kansas. Your Ole Miss argument, I'm here for. If you want to put Oklahoma in instead of Ole Miss, yeah. Except Ole Miss beat you last year. And except for a run in the second quarter,
beat them pretty handily.
That wasn't really close.
Yeah,
like
Ole Miss controlled that game.
I mean, if we're talking recruiting development and being in the national championship conversation, there's not really much of an argument to be made here. I mean, Tennessee might be a little bit generous, I think, but I think they belong in the conversation. Oregon's gonna be in the middle of there, but they're always gonna be a competitor because of the money.
The money, and that's really what it's about with Oregon, and that's where the resources criterion comes into play, really, with that program.
Sure, I don't see, aside from Ole Miss being debatable, I don't see one thing wrong with this list.
As I expected, some very, very differing opinions on the text line. Ardmore Sooner, for instance, says, like paid a lot, but he's wrong here. OU should be in front of Clemson, and especially Ole Miss. That UPS guy says, I wouldn't say top 10, but top 15, no doubt. We will be top 10 within the next 5 years. The Waffler says, over the last 4 years, not even close, and I ain't even a doomer. Florida Sooner concurs. He says he's right. Oklahoma over the last 4 years has not been a top 12 program. Sooner JJ says, I have no problem with OU not being on Pate's list, but it is another example of how the OU brand has diminished over the last 4 years. I mean, as we look at that list, Oklahoma isn't the only program that has fallen upon hard times within the last 4 years. Texas went 5-7 in 2021, just to pick one example. Michigan's low point came in 2020, so that's just outside that 4-year window. But
Yep.
Michigan was no world beater this past year by any means. LSU, they've had their ups and downs under Brian Kelly. Clemson, you can make the argument, and I think this speaks to how impressive a job Dabo Swinney has done. You can make the argument that this past 4 years at Clemson has been the program's worst 4 years under Dabo, maybe, I guess, since like the OG 4-year span that he was there, really starting to build that program up. But even so, Clemson just made the college football playoff. And Ole Miss, I think they're there because, they bet the farm on building a college football playoff team in 2024 via the transfer portal. It didn't pan out. But again, we go back to resources. And the rolling blend, once again, that Josh Pate used was talent acquisition, on-field results, and program resources / stability. I don't think it's a hot take right now to say Ole Miss has more resources than Oklahoma.
And stability.
Maybe not. And here's where you kind of have to define your terms, is that I think in the grand scheme, if you're just talking about like available resources, alumni base, money that exists conceptually from your big-time donors that you can activate. I think Oklahoma's in a better spot than Ole Miss in that regard, but Ole Miss has tapped into those resources better than Oklahoma has in recent years. And so they're operating with more resources than OU, even if in a raw sense, OU has more resources than the University of Mississippi. And I don't know, I don't know exactly how much money is there in a potential sense for Ole Miss versus what Oklahoma's working with, but I do know Ole Miss is and has been operating with a lot more NIL coin to throw around than Oklahoma. They've been willing to go and spend. Oklahoma, whether it's a case of the money being there and not being willing to spend it, or the money just not being there quite yet in a commission sense, Ole Miss had a significantly higher NIL budget in football than Oklahoma, and they've got a significantly higher NIL budget in basketball than Oklahoma. But I get this is a football exclusive conversation, and so we'll try to keep it there. 405 listener says, our defense is top 10, but our offense has to show out to prove we are a top 10 team. Florida Sooner says Oklahoma has almost no stability. We are on our 8th coordinators in that time frame, 7th and 8th coordinators. Man, that's crazy to think about. 832 Mike says, I disagree with Pate, but I do see why he would not put OU in that group. The part I'm trying to understand is we're talking about the word program, and you don't become a top program in a year or two. So how does Ole Miss show up on there? They've been terrible forever. Also, this is just another indictment of what a bad job BV has done so far. He was supposed to be the savior, but instead he and Joe C have set us back 5 years.
Can we, talking about defining terms, where is this whole thing of BV being a savior coming from? A savior from what?
Thank you for asking that question.
Because that implies that you were in the dumps for forever before he got there, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, Oklahoma football didn't need saving.
Yeah. Again, saving from what? From Lincoln? I mean, I know he dipped on y'all in the middle of the night, but the program was still in a pretty decent place.
He said, y'all, he ain't one of us.
I mean, I know they didn't play any defense, but was it not Lincoln that took them to a college football playoff?
3 of them, as a matter of fact.
So what do you need saving from? I don't know. That's always been a burning question to me.
Yeah. Well, that UPS guy points out he did save the defense.
Yeah,
that is true.
I said they did that.
Another 4 or 5 listener says Pate's list includes everybody that probably has more NIL than OU. Where the heck do we rank in NIL? What's the dollar amount that they have that we don't have? Well, OU is, in a comprehensive sense, how can I put this diplomatically?
Oh, boy.
In a comprehensive sense, if we're talking all sports, and I know like the cap is coming and it's not really going to matter anymore, but right now, today, Oklahoma has significantly less NIL money at its disposal and is using significantly less NIL money than the majority of programs in the SEC. Again, will that matter a year from now? Probably not, because revenue sharing, the salary cap, the $20.5 million, that's all coming down the pipeline. But if you're concerned right now about Oklahoma's product on the football field or in any other sport, just know that the Sooners are not dealing from the same deck as many of their peer programs in the SEC right this second.
Let's get this one text in before we go to break. This is from the Waffler. Dude, our program was in the dumps. That's why he left. Our roster was garbage. That's what we needed saving from. Lincoln left us in a bad spot. You needed saving from a coach that took you to 3 college football playoffs? I know when he left, he gutted the roster. He took the quarterback, took a couple of players. I get all that. But to say the program was in shambles, I just don't think is accurate.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. If you go back to 2021, that was not an 11-2 team. If you watch that team, that was like a 7-5 type team.
That he elevated.
Well, like Caleb Williams elevated.
I mean, sure, you can do that too. But I mean, in Lincoln Riley's tenure as a head coach, 12-2, 12-2, 12-2, 9-2, 11-2.
Mm-hmm.
There's no saving. What do you want to be? What do you want to be saved from? Being a perennial contender?
I'm turning the dial, poke Willie, getting all Lincoln Riley apologist on us.
Hey man, I'm just giving factoids. I mean, look, I might be wrong. I might be right, and you guys might find a way to tell me that I'm wrong.
All right, folks, let's hit a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue discussing this as well as some other notable nuggets from the OU football and recruiting realm, including the news that Oklahoma is going to get the last official visit for one of the top prospects in the entire country in the 2026 class. We'll talk through that on the other side. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Deion Burks, and you're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Tired of your current living situation? Now is the best time to make a move. Interest rates are dropping, and Home Creations is offering the best financing around with rates as low as 3.625%. This will save you hundreds per month on your brand new Home Creations home. Live like a champion today by calling Holly at 405-364-9999 for full details.
364-9999 Home Creations.
APR 6.508%.
More than 600,000 Oklahomans have disabilities. We can't afford to leave great employees behind just because they do things differently.
Who we are and what we accomplish
are much more important.
Hire an Oklahoman with a disability and gain dependability, commitment, and lower turnover. Reach out. Oklahoma Rehabilitation Services, okdrs.gov. 1-800-845-8476.
Ever wonder why someone would wake up at the crack of dawn just for a chance at the unknown? Maybe a better question is, what are you waiting for? Pacifico is brewed for those who follow their own path. That's living life anchors up.
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
March is almost here, and the home of Sooner fans is ready to make the best 68-team giveaway better than ever again this year. Join us Monday, March 17th for the Ref's 24th annual 68-team giveaway, live at Buffalo Wild Wings off of 19th Street and more from noon to 7. The Ref's 68-team giveaway is presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind Casino. Good times, great rewards. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans, and your home for the best giveaways this March.
The all-new Eskridge Honda is here, right in time for the new year. Our new building is awesome, just like these deals. Right now, get new 2024 Honda Ridgelines, just $349 per month. Come in today to get the best deals all month long. Now conveniently located off I-35 and 89. Just look for the blue tents on the roof. Online at eskridgehonda.com.
2024 Honda Ridgeline, $349 per month, 3-year, 10,000-mile lease, $49.99 plus TTNL. First month's payment due at signing. Ends 2/28/25.
From the gridiron to the hardwood to the diamond, no one covers the Sooners like we do. If it's Sooner Sports, we have you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is the home of Sooner fans.
Are you looking for luxury apartments for rent in Norman? The Falls at Brookhaven offers stunning apartments and a well-maintained, calm atmosphere. Enjoy our landscaping, a swim in the pool, or take your pet for a walk in one of our 2 dog parks. Our spacious outdoor areas and state-of-the-art amenities will make this new home feel like a resort. All this can be right outside of your door when you live at the Falls at Brookhaven. Call our locally owned and operated community at 405-701-8233 or go online to thefallsatbrookhaven.com to view our spacious floor plans.
Entrepreneurs and More Norman in South Oklahoma City have an experienced business partner in their neighborhood. More Norman Technology Center's workforce and economic development team understands the challenges entrepreneurs and small businesses face every day. From building an effective business model to hiring the right employees and managing cash flow, More Norman's business development experts can help you move forward confidently and thrive, knowing that you have a skilled partner at your side. Learn more about More Norman's Technology Center by calling 405-801-5000 or visit us online at mntc.edu.
If any of y'all out there got a green thumb, feel free to help me out. I have a house now. I have land. Got to start planting some stuff. It's almost spring. Maybe I should tune into the other station. I hear they talk a lot about gardening over there. But if any of y'all out there know what grows well in the Oklahoma soil, let me know, because my wife and I got to start making plans as to what we're going to grow this spring.
What you thinking? What's the early thoughts?
Historically, and I've lived in apartments for the last 7 years of my life. I haven't been able to grow anything since I was younger, but I've grown tomatoes. I hear those do well in Oklahoma, so probably going to do some of those, maybe some peppers, some herbs, potatoes perhaps. Watermelons would be cool. Could I do watermelons? Would watermelons work in Oklahoma? Not doing weed, please and thank you. Not doing weed. And Gunny didn't even have to say that. There were like 5 of you that texted in saying, I bet Gunny could help you plant some weed. Not planting weed in Blanchard, America. Not on my property anyway.
If I ever went back to your house and I saw marijuana growing in your backyard,
yeah, you won't.
I would wonder who hit you over the head.
Some important news today as it pertains to recruiting. I'll be honest, I was a bit surprised when I learned that it would be the case that Oklahoma is going to get the final official visit from 4-star offensive tackle Felix Ojo out of Mansfield Lake Ridge High School. Felix Ojo recently announced a top 8. His official visits, as it stands right now, are going to be Ole Miss, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, and finally Oklahoma at the Champ U Barbecue, June 20th through the 22nd. That is a battle that right now I believe is primarily being fought by Texas and Ohio State. Now, if we go back to Under Armour Dallas a couple weekends ago, or I guess just over a week ago, last Sunday, Felix Ojo was quite clearly the MVP. I mean, firmly established at that camp against some elite competition that he is one of the best offensive tackles in the country. This is a dude that, if developed properly, is going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick one day. He's just that good, that special. 6'7", great build, quick feet, no bad weight, hard worker. He's everything you want an offensive tackle to be and to look like. There's going to be a lot of money spent for his services. It does not much matter where he goes. Whoever lands Felix Ojo is going to be paying him a lot of money. And so for that reason, among others, Texas and Ohio State have kind of become the primary focus in most folks' eyes when evaluating the status of Felix Ojo's recruitment. But Oklahoma has been in the mix from the very beginning. I want to say they were his 7th or 8th offer. They were very early to the table before a ton of the other big-time P4 schools came to the table. They had a months-long head start on both Texas and Ohio State. And so given that the relationships date that far back, given that Bill Bedenbaugh is going to get his shot, given that Oklahoma is going to get their shot with Felix Ojo, the question becomes, how real of a chance do they have? And I guess, look, I am not going to sit here and try to convince you that Felix Ojo winds up at the University of Oklahoma, because I'm not convinced of that right now. I think he's a Longhorn or a Buckeye. But I'll simply say this, Grayson. A year ago at this time, we all thought, including myself, that Michael Fasusi was a Longhorn, that he was going to be headed down to the 40 acres. And Oklahoma didn't even succeed in getting Fasusi on campus for the Champ U Barbecue. Champ U Barbecue last year was the weekend of June 21st. You know where Michael Fasusi OV'd that weekend? The University of Texas. And yet 2 months to the day later, he committed to OU. OU got him on campus on a weekend where there were maybe only 2 or 3 other visitors. I can't recall the exact number. There were not that many. Because obviously they had the overwhelming majority of their top targets on campus for the Champ U Barbecue the following weekend. And so Oklahoma didn't even have the advantage of giving Fasusi the Champ U Barbecue experience on his OV. But nonetheless, they wound up with his services, and I think it's pretty well understood that they did not pay him the most money. They did not offer him the most money. OU convinced Michael Fasusi to take less. And so, Grayson, as you evaluate this situation with Felix Ojo, you feel like it's realistic that Oklahoma might be able to put themselves in a position over the summer to realistically land a commitment from Felix Ojo?
Yeah, because the reason why they could is because they did it last year. Now, this year is a whole different set of circumstances.
It is.
You have more money that is tied up in two other offensive tackle recruits that you have landed. You have Ryan Foje and Michael Fasusi. So you've got that going for you. You've talked about this for weeks now. It's going to be hard to convince another high-profile tackle to come into Oklahoma and play behind two other high-profile underclassmen tackles. That's just the reality of the situation. So that's the big difference between last year and this year. Also, let's keep this in mind, too. You didn't get Fasusi on for the Champion Barbecue. Given historical trends with a person of that magnitude in terms of his recruitment, you could say you got lucky here. That's just the reality of the situation. You convinced one of the top 5 tackles to take less money. You didn't even get him on in your biggest OV weekend. Mm-hmm. So that's not really something you want to try to feel confident running back again. And then number 3, defending national champions and the defending runner-ups. Or excuse me, a team that was in the semifinal. Pardon, let me correct myself. All of that going against you, I don't think they pull this off. But the main reason and the reason number 1 that I don't think they pull it off is because I just don't think I don't think Felix Ojo is going to come in here and become the 3rd tackle that is an underclassman behind two dudes that were equally as sought after as he was.
Yeah. And look, there's a world. Realistically, there is a world where you could accommodate all 3. Foje could slide inside to guard. It's a possibility, regardless of what happens with Ojo, that Ryan Foje winds up playing guard at Oklahoma. But Michael Fasusi is a left tackle, and that's what he's going to be. If you land Ojo, if you want to hope to land Ojo, what you probably have to do is either A, convince the kid to wait his turn, not likely, or you have to convince one or the other between Ojo and Fasusi that they can and should play right tackle instead of left. Again, highly unlikely because the guys that get paid at the next level are
left tackles.
And both Fasusi and Ojo fit the mold of exactly what you want an elite left tackle to be and to look like. So you're right. Given the circumstances, it's not the same conversation as it was last year with Fasusi. It's not as if you can tell Ojo, hey, we see you playing early. We see you playing potentially right away. Then the immediate question, the natural question becomes, okay, well then what of Fasusi? What are your plans for him? And you could lie. You could tell both kids what they want to hear. That doesn't tend to work out very well.
Especially not anymore with agents in the picture.
The truth gets around very quickly these days. It's going to be a tough sell for Oklahoma. But again, they're going to have a chance. That's all it is right now. It's a chance. And I imagine what Oklahoma will try to communicate to Ojo one way or another is, hey, regardless of how long it takes for you to get on the field here, you're going to get developed. And if we turn you into an NFL first-round pick, as we've done with so many guys in the past, Anton Harrison and Tyler Guyton, 2 very recent examples, that's when you will encounter truly life-changing money. Because practically speaking, what's the difference, say, between $1.2 and $1.4 million at the collegiate level? Are you going to miss that money? At what point are you just getting paid enough to be content right now with the expectation, the belief that if you buy into what we're doing here and you allow yourself to be coachable and you submit to Coach Biedenbo's vision for you at Oklahoma, you expect in 3 to 4 years that you're going to find yourself at the top of NFL draft boards with a chance to make more money than you ever made at the collegiate level as your signing bonus when you're an NFL draft pick. That's going to be the pitch. Whether it's successful or not, who's to say? Whether Ojo even makes it to Oklahoma before committing to a school, who's to say? But I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to convince the kid to take less, like you did with Fasusi, because the cost-benefit analysis comes into play too. If you have Fasusi, you're probably not going to spend a ridiculous amount of money for Felix Ojo. You're probably not going to want to make that allocation in the budget if you already have the guy that you consider to be your left tackle of the future on board. That doesn't mean you don't want Ojo. That doesn't mean you won't pay a pretty penny for him. But what that does mean is you're not going to go above and beyond the numbers that Texas and Ohio State are going to throw out to a guy like that. More realistically, what you're going to do is you're going to tell him, hey, we got this much for you. We can promise you development. We can promise you that if you buy in, you're going to be a high NFL draft pick. Take it or leave it. And we're fine either way.
And look, Fasusi took less to come here. That's common knowledge now. But he didn't take so much less than market value. And because agents are in the picture now, these guys know what market value is. So while some people can take less, they're not going to take substantially less than what they are being told and what they can feel and what they know they are worth. So when you're trying to stack positions like these, again, this is why I love that we're probably going to have a salary cap coming down the pike, because it makes stuff like this fun. Mm-hmm. It makes stuff like this really, really fun. Because what's the phrase I always say? You have to properly price commodities. And when you can go awry as a front office is when you don't. So do you want to overpay for a third tackle that when he comes in, all three will be underclassmen?
The answer? Probably not.
Probably not. And
Probably not.
And that's probably the wise answer, too.
Puerto Rican Sooner on the text line says, Oklahoma holding on to that money harder than Julius from Everybody Hates Chris. You ever watched Everybody Hates Chris?
Come on now.
I have not.
There's a difference between you and me that would lead me to having seen that show and you not.
Okay, I'm sure that's probably true.
Nah, man, I grew up on Everybody Hates Chris, Meet the Browns, House of Pain.
I got
all
you.
those Tyler Perry shows.
Okay. Yeah, never watched Everybody Hates Chris. So
it's a good show.
I can't appreciate your joke, Puerto Rican Sooner, but Grayson Singleton certainly did. Okay, we're overdue for another timeout. Let's hit one here. When we return, we will wrap it up with your texts, more OU football and recruiting talk, and so much more. Keep it here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. We'll be back.
Hey, Sooner fans. This is Jalen Moore. You're listening to The Ref, the home of the Sooner fans.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
The Ref is the home of Sooner fans and is once again your home for chaos. Every game-changing hit.
Long fly ball to left. Track. Whoa. Gone.
Every strikeout.
Got him. Swinging.
Every defensive gem.
He caught it. He caught it.
Every game. All year. The Ref has you covered.
Catch Sooner baseball against the Texas Southern Tigers this Tuesday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. with pregame at 3:30 right here on the Ref and the K-Ref app.
Basketball season's here, and there's no better place to watch the Sooners than at Coach's Corner in Norman. Catch every thrilling play on tons of TVs, plus enjoy the coldest beer in town. But wait, Coach's Corner isn't just for game days. Join us Tuesday nights for bingo, Wednesday nights for Singo, and don't miss Thirsty Thursdays with unbeatable drink specials. With Soul Food Sundays, the best atmosphere for OU basketball, and events all week long, Coach's Corner is your go-to spot at the intersection of Lindsay and Berry, where every day is game day.
Get ready to unleash your inner fury at the Norman Sports Commission's Fun Run. Join us on Saturday, March 1st with a race right through Norman. You can pick your distance too, a half marathon, 5K, or a 1 mile fun run. each with an unforgettable run through the iconic OU football stadium. You can sign up for the Fury Run at thefuryrun.com. That's thefuryrun.com and be part of the action.
A happy place comes in many colors. One that leaves you feeling refreshed. Something that gets you all fired up. Or gives you the space to chill. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Get started today at CertaPro.com. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
5 Iron Golf is now open in Yukon, Oklahoma. Escape the Oklahoma weather and play world-famous courses like Pebble Beach on state-of-the-art TrackMan simulators. Perfect your swing with expert coaching or just kick back with delicious food, craft cocktails, and a lively sports bar vibe. Planning a party, corporate outing, or fun night out? 5 Iron Golf has you covered. Visit 5 Iron Golf to book now and experience the future of indoor golf and entertainment in Yukon.
Hey Sooner sports fans, this is Faith Torres and Danae Fletcher from the 6-time national champions Oklahoma women's gymnastics team.
We've had a great start to our first season in the SEC.
With only 4 meets, including Florida and Michigan, you won't want to miss any of the action.
Get your tickets at Soonersports.com and become a member of Team 10 to support OU Women's Gym and receive unique experiences and special access to the team.
Team 10 supports our team above and beyond anything I could have ever dreamed. Go to Soonersports.com and become a member of Team 10 today. Boomer!
Hi, this is Lisa Talley, broker and owner of Aria Real Estate Group. Aria Real Estate Group is Norman's premier full-service commercial and residential real estate brokerage and leasing and management firm. With our team of real estate agents, specialized property managers, and in-house maintenance team, Aria is here for you in every capacity. Whether you're a seller, a buyer, an investor, or a renter, we can help. Please explore our website at ariagroupok.com. Aria Real Estate Group, the gold standard of real estate.
One more segment of Locked In here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. A super chat question via the YouTube stream from Charlie Price, who says, On 3 ranked Elijah Thomas as wide receiver number 20 and Manny Choice as wide receiver number 22 on their list of incoming freshmen, behind Jamie French and others. Is that accurate? I imagine they could skyrocket. Yeah, look, I think those are perfectly adequate rankings for Elijah Thomas and Manny Choice. I'd probably have Elijah Thomas a little bit higher, but admittedly that's based on the things that I have heard about him thus far since he arrived at OU, not what he did throughout his high school career. And I think what On 3 is evaluating is, how do we rank them as prospects here at the conclusion of the 2025 recruiting cycle? Elijah Thomas is the number 20 wide receiver according to our rankings, which is fine. I mean, anybody that is a top 20 wide receiver in the nation, you're pretty dang good. I love Manny Choice. I love Elijah Thomas. I think both of those guys are going to be special at Oklahoma. I think they have the opportunity to contribute from the jump as true freshmen. And I would say if that list was re-ranked after the coming season, I would venture to guess that Elijah Thomas will be top 10, minimum. If there is a freshman on this roster that breaks into the starting lineup, I believe it's going to be Elijah Thomas. And that's highly plausible at this point. Not because Oklahoma is devoid of talent at wide receiver or something like that, but simply because the kid is that freaky. And we've dived into this. As far as testing metrics, as far as what he's done that you can measure since he showed up on campus, it's next level stuff. Elijah Thomas, that's a dude. Grayson, we started the show with a take from Josh Pate. As we wrap up the show here, let's jump to another take from Josh Pate that was quite incendiary last night. Josh Pate is buying USC. Josh Pate said in so many words, the right people are in the building. I am buying USC heading into 2025. And USC had a ton of steam on social media this weekend because of that take, for one thing, And also because they managed to flip one of the top quarterbacks in the 2026 cycle, Jonas Williams. I almost said Jonah Williams. It's Jonas Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They managed to flip him from Oregon. It is the first USC to Oregon flip. Or I'm sorry, the first Oregon to USC flip of the Lincoln Riley era of USC football. USC fans are having a field day. Right now, that program has the #1 recruiting class in the 2026 cycle. And I just found myself thinking, man, we've been here before, haven't we? Wasn't this the story of the 2021 offseason, the 2020 going into 2021 offseason for OU football fans? Because at that time, it was the number I believe this was the last time Oklahoma had the #1 recruiting class in any cycle at any point. For much of calendar year 2021, they had the #1 recruiting class in the 2023 cycle. You remember that? Guys like Malachi Nelson, Brandon Innes, Luke Haas from Bixby, Makai Lemon, DeAndre Moore, Josh Bates was an early commit. He was the one that wound up sticking it out. But that was the entirety of the 2021 offseason, heading into the 2021 campaign. For Oklahoma and OU football fans is, oh, here we go. And look, I drank the Kool-Aid too. I'll admit it. I wasn't exempt from this. But that's when everybody started to think, oh, man, like Oklahoma's really going to have it cooking here before long. OU was a popular preseason pick to make the national title game. Obviously, that didn't happen. Oklahoma State made sure of that in Stillwater.
Yep.
In what would be Lincoln Riley's final game as OU's head coach. But I also found it interesting that Pate specifically said the words, "It's not smoke and mirrors." Because I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's exactly what it is. And having lived through it at Oklahoma, I feel qualified to make that judgment. I could be wrong. But I think smoke and mirrors is all it is out there at USC. And I feel like we've had this conversation several off seasons in a row now at USC. I mean, this was all the rage last February, wasn't it? USC hired this new defensive coordinator, Danton Lynn from UCLA. You got Miller Moss taking over at quarterback. This could be the year where it all comes together for USC. And then what happens? They go beat LSU in week 1, or week 0, I guess. And USC football has arrived. Here it is. This is the burgeoning powerhouse that Lincoln Riley had aspirations of building. Here it is in front of us. And that crashed and burned very quickly. Chris from Knoxville on the text line says, September 27th, we'll know if USC is worth its salt at Illinois. That'll be a tough one.
It will.
Illinois, very sneakily. And Illinois is a program that not a lot of folks are talking about. They got something going up there. Recruiting Boomer said, screw recruiting rankings. Jaden Jackson was a 3-star. He was at one point. He closed as a 4. Across the board, I believe. I know at Rivals we had him top 150 in the country, and he deserved it. He was a monster. Jake from Wisconsin says, I'm embarrassed by Parker. I'm as white as can be, and I have watched Everybody Hates Chris religiously. That show is the best. Listen, I didn't watch TV growing up. We didn't have cable, and so I've spent my adult life to this point just catching up on all the shows that I missed. You got to start somewhere, right? So I started with the basics. The Office, Parks and Rec, How I Met Your Mother, etc. The staples of national television during my childhood. Started with those, working our way along. I'm sure at some point I'll get around to Everybody Hates Chris, but you got to eat the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Everybody Hates Chris, though, wasn't on cable. That was on, like, linear local television.
I'm sure it was. What I'm saying is I didn't.
Oh, you just didn't watch?
I didn't watch it.
You said y'all didn't have cable. That's why I threw that out there, because was the not having cable the barrier.
Yeah, I mean, no, like we had, the regional channels, CBS, ABC, Fox. So all the shows that aired on that network, I guess, were technically available. But I was also a pastor's kid, so. And I know you were too. But I did not get much exposure to network television and sitcoms and the like growing up. That UPS guy said Parker didn't watch TV. He was busy growing corn, LOL. I tried growing corn once.
How'd that work out for you?
Corn needs a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
Found that out the hard way. Because we were just growing. I mean, the house I lived at growing up, it was on a 1/4 acre in the suburbs in Nebraska. We didn't have like a gardening bed or anything. We just had pots. So you try to grow a corn plant in a pot at a certain point, it just stops. And it did. It runs out of room for the roots.
Yeah, I'm surprised y'all tried that.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
There wasn't a whole lot of research that went into it. Another key piece of news. Another key piece of news that came out today, and I look forward to this every year just to see what people have to say about it, because I think it's the most BS metric in college football, maybe in all of sports. ESPN's returning production metrics came out today, which of course measures how much production each college football team is returning. I hate this statistic, Grayson.
I do too.
I think it is absurd. I think it tells me virtually nothing at all. I think it's useless. I don't know why people bothered to calculate it. I'm not saying those people's work is pointless. I'm just saying their priorities could be more...
Could be better utilized.
They could be focused elsewhere, and the end result would be superior. Because returning production only matters, Grayson, if the players that are returning are any good. For instance, if you suck, if you went 2-10 and you have 70% of your production returning, does it really matter? Or if you're Oklahoma, like for instance, if you're an Oklahoma football fan and you sat through that 6-7 debacle last year, would you rather have 80% of your production returning or 30% of your production returning?
Probably the latter.
You'd rather have 30%. So like, shoot, I don't want that crap. Some of those guys that were on the field last year, I better not see those guys again. So to me, I don't know why we put so much stock into returning production. And people that do, I disagree, plain and simple, with them. Because I'm just not convinced it matters. Again, it all depends on if your players are any good. It's great to have returning production if your roster is good. If your roster sucks, you don't want returning production. Chris from Knoxville says,
I was just about to read it.
Ollie Gordon was a ton of returning production for Okie State, and we saw how that worked out. Sorry, Grayson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing. When you're talking about running backs or receivers, quarterbacks, whatever, football is so dependent on what's around you. Ollie Gordon didn't look as great this year because the offensive line took 5 gajillion steps back for Oklahoma State. That's the reality of the situation. And in the case of Oklahoma, yeah, most of your production is not returning, but, and you probably think that's a good thing, but you've got new production from all over the country, plus a new coach. There's too many things that just isolating returning production doesn't take into account, especially in the game of football.
Take this for what you will. Oklahoma is 10th in the country in returning production.
Are they really?
Yeah.
They must have been that just makes the offense seem so much more anemic than it already was.
That, and they are bringing back a ton on defense, which from that standpoint, you do want that.
So it does take into account defense. This
Yes.
isn't just an all-purpose yard. Got you. Okay.
So you do have many of your key pieces coming back. You're returning 8 of 11 starters. Offensively, though, and I haven't dug into the numbers to see how they balance out on either side of the football, but shoot. I think most Oklahoma football fans would want the returning production number to be as low as possible on the offensive side of the ball, given what they all witnessed.
No doubt.
I mean, who did you see on the field last year in a regular capacity that you're like, yep, I want more of that guy in 2025?
In a regular capacity, nobody.
Deion Burks, like
regular capacity?
Even he was dinged up half the season. But like Was he the only offensive skill position player? He and Xavier Robinson, I guess. We're like, I can't wait to see what that guy does in 2025.
And neither of them were on the field in a regular capacity.
Yep. Everybody else got a large degree of apprehension about. At least everybody else that returns from last year's roster. All right, folks. That's all for Locked In here on a Monday. Thanks for hanging with us. You shouldn't go anywhere on the other side because Tyler and Ted are kicking off The Rush here at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. We will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. This is The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.